Well, hello there, and welcome to the recording of episode 2.6 of Marketing Scoop, the SEO Rush podcast that covers four different key areas. It covers SEO, advertising, content, and success stories. So each different episode, we're focusing on a different area. This episode, we happen to be focusing in on enterprise SEO and establishing really what is enterprise SEO and what are the key differences between enterprise SEO and regular SEO. So we're recording this as a YouTube live, of course, but it's going to be an audio podcast, and more people will actually consume this content as an audio podcast. So where do you get the audio podcast if you happen to be watching on YouTube and not sure about that? Well, if you just head over to semrush.com/podcast, you can see the podcast there as well, and you can see links to subscribing on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Overcast, and Spotify as well. Just recently added to Spotify. So that's great. We'll be releasing this particular episode just a few hours after we finish the show today. I say we will be introducing you to today's guests just in a couple of minutes' time when we do the proper introductions. But I see we've got a few live viewers at the moment. So if you're watching live at the moment, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us where you're from. Tell us your background. Are you fully involved in SEO? Is SEO part of your day job? Just a little bit of part of what you do? Are you a general digital marketer? And it would be good to know a little bit about where in the world you happen to be. Are you in the States, the UK, Canada, somewhere else? Jenny, it's great to see you again. She's in Minneapolis. We're just waiting for a couple of more people to add in where they are. Well, I know you're watching there. Hopefully, you're not going to hide and not participate in the conversation. We should have a lot of incredible points raised about enterprise SEO. So if you've got some questions in relation to that particular sphere, please leave them in the YouTube comments, and I'm going to try and review them and ensure that we cover them as part of the show itself. But we've got so much to cover, and because we've got so much to cover, I think we should just get cracking on and start the podcast recording proper. So I'm going to play my my introduction tune and get going with a proper intro. Marketing Scoop, Season 2, Episode 6. What is Enterprise SEO? Broadcasting live in the SEO Rush YouTube channel, this is Marketing Scoop, the SEO Rush show that reveals the latest digital trends and technologies that impact your marketing strategy. Together with industry experts, we delve into SEO advertising and content marketing to uncover the ultimate recipe for digital marketing success. Hi, I'm your host, David Bain. Let us meet today's guests. First up, a man who's worked with the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation and the US State Department. Welcome to the Scoop. The search product owner at Vodafone Group. Welcome, Nick Wilsdon.
Hi, David. Yeah, it's great to be here. Hi.
I like to pick a little segment in people's backgrounds that haven't necessarily been shared before, but
I was wondering if it was the right time politically to bring that up.
but are publicly available. Yeah, it's on your bio and your news site. So I think it's fair game from there. But
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us, Nick. So next up, a man who is forever learning online marketing. His specialties include SEO, PPC, display, and social. Welcome, the Global SEO Manager at IKEA Group, Arnoldo Cabrera.
Hello, David. It's nice to be here together with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Arnoldo. Great to have you here. So today we're going to be largely talking about what enterprise SEO is and the specific differences between enterprise SEO and regular SEO. But first of all, I'd like to touch base on a couple of SEO-related news stories that have made the headlines this week. So first of all, we've seen a tweet from Danny Sullivan. He's reached out to the SEO community and he's said, "We're curious about what's top of mind in your hopes and dreams about how Google displays listings." Nick, what do you make of this one?
I think it's great when Google reaches out like this, and it started a very interesting conversation, I think, from the community in terms of what we'd like to see in the SERPs. And some of the feedback to Danny, I think, has been great. It's in terms of sort of markup, how we could use markup better. I mean, from my perspective, I would like to have more visibility over markup. So I would agree with a lot of those suggestions, because any greater visibility in Google will help with the business case to get those kind of changes made. So that's definitely one for me. But yeah, I've seen some brilliant stuff. I mean, David one off has talked about demoting site links. Joost was talking about strict mode on Meta. So there's a lot of good topics kind of been raised by that.
Arnoldo, have you added to the wish list as well?
Yeah, and I see a lot of feedback in regards site links, and that's my favorite one, especially considering the setup that we have at IKEA with .com hosting different locales. Sometimes it's difficult to have a specific control on the site links. So how do we share or show the site links? It's critical, depending on the setup. But for us, is being challenging, because sometimes we get different results that we don't want, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did some SEO work for a big international client, and they were really struggling with different listings appearing for their Switzerland website. So obviously, you've got lots of different languages there, and links to different language websites, or even the French version of their website. So you can see the positives in big websites being given control over specifically which site links should appear. Do you think that's something that Google are scared could be abused too much?
I mean, maybe there's always a problem with this, because Google wants to have that conversation start between SEOs and largely because, you know, as Danny himself is sort of evidence that there's a lot of long-term SEOs that have a really good idea of what should go on in Google. They've worked with Google. My whole career has been around Google for, you know, nearly 20 years. So, you know, SEOs, well, we're sort of seen as quite combative really to Google in some respects. In terms of our understanding of Google, you know, we're actually, you know, we've been sitting around the same thing. We know a lot about each other's work. So I think it's good to have that conversation. And obviously Google wants to do that more with brands, because they can interact more. And I think brands have taken this more in-house, so they've taken more ownership over the SEO. So you're able to do this. They obviously don't want to give away too much still, as you suggest, where it can be abused and people can start to take these suggestions and this openness from Google and abuse that with the rankings. So it's a difficult balance.
And something else that people are reporting in the SERP at the moment is seeing a double featured snippet. Nick, do they need to go to the opticians, or is
no? It's definitely how I think Google's testing a lot of things at the moment, and you know, I wouldn't. It's one that you really shouldn't sort of jump around too much on, because it might just be a short-term test, like the longer meta descriptions. Google's obviously experimenting with making web pages far more machine readable, and that relates into voice search and getting back these answers. So I think there's going to be a lot of experimentation around this area really over the next few years.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And Arnoldo, do you have concerns, you know, if the double featured snippet does continue, that organic listings are going to be pushed way down, and that's going to significantly impact the quantity of organic traffic?
Well, that's a general concern, right? According to the Spark Toro brand Fisk in the latest keynote back in Brighton. Yeah, it's a general concern. But when it comes to this, as Nick is mentioning, we see it as a part of the experimentation, and then considering that they are expanding their AI capabilities, apart the experimentation, I guess they are assuming that they are training their algorithms.
And I'd probably add, I mean, to do with the topic, so we're enterprise SEOs, we probably get less excited about these kind of experiments and these quick changes, because we need to put so much work into the business case and to get sign off for doing something that it's very risky to get too excited about kind of short-term change or short-term experiment.
Simon Cox is saying in the chat, I saw a lot of brands not trusting in-house SEO teams. There's always been a battle for me to persuade internal business heads to use in-house teams. So I think that's quite an interesting topic for enterprise SEO. So if I can ask both of you just to park that thought in your heads as well, we'll hopefully return to that discussion. There's just one other news-related story to cover, and that is Google are saying make sure Google can see lazy loaded content. So Arnoldo, what is lazy loaded content?
Well, that's basically the content that it's how you load the images basically. And this latest change that they announced yesterday, they come with some ideas on how to do it in the right way. And after they announced the guide, it was I don't really remember his name. I think it's Eric Bidelman, one of the Puppeteer guys, who came with the it's a JavaScript or Node library to test properly the lazy loading. He came with the actually an extension for Puppeteer on how to test this ideally. So besides the guide, when it comes to enterprise, for us is really important, and especially with the SEO, to take these new developments in testing and test properly in staging. Because one of the challenges when you're deploying these type of things is that for most of the cases is until it's in production. Thank God this guy or Google is coming, or the Chrome development team is coming with this type of library, so we can easily test or give guidance to developers. So this is a good, nice step from Google to be more open about how to test, because it's for a small business to enterprise is always a challenge.
Okay, Nick, I see you're nodding your head there as well. Obviously, this issue of Google not seeing certain content can rear its head in relation to mobile as well, and responsive design type sites. But this is obviously a different issue.
Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, we don't use so much lazy loading now, because we kind of use different alternatives really in our performance team. So this is something that, but I'm very, I mean, as Arnoldo said, I'm very happy that Google is sharing this kind of information with us, and I think it's great because enterprise SEO is technical SEO, and any documentation or guides that Google can make available to us kind of helps massively. It makes the whole profession and what we do get taken a lot more seriously by internal stakeholders, and it just it raises the bar really for everyone, because we don't have to we've got definitive answers there from Google in how to address a topic. So I'm very happy that they're sharing this kind of information.
Great stuff. Okay, well, let's go to the main topic, which is what is enterprise SEO and the differences between enterprise SEO and regular SEO. Maybe staying with Nick just now. Nick, how would you summarize the main challenges, the main differences that enterprise SEOs face compared with SEOs of a site with a lot fewer pages?
It's just larger scale, to be honest. You're dealing with websites that are huge. You're dealing with many different websites across markets. I mean, Vodafone has 26 plus markets, so you're dealing with a much larger structure, huge amounts of traffic, many silos. It's just everything's at much larger scale, and that presents a lot of very unique problems, really, or challenges for an enterprise SEO.
So what would be one or two of those challenges that that you face that someone working on a smaller site probably wouldn't?
I think it can be summed up by something my old boss told me when I first joined Vodafone, is that you can't boil the ocean. And I think that's very true, really, about enterprise SEO. You have to take it chunk by chunk, and you need to work out what you can do that's realistic. And there'll be a lot of people on smaller sites that will look at enterprise sites and they'll get very excited because they can see things that are wrong, and they're wondering, well, why haven't you fixed these? Why haven't you just got this actioned? And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with us. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of interaction with stakeholders to get things signed off, and then there's a lot of set development processes, testing processes, really, which kind of look back to the guide on lazy loading that help with that. There's a lot of process behind what we do, and that's what holds you up, really. So you have to have a different approach, a much more patient approach. With smaller sites, you can just get on, you can do stuff, you can be very active, and it's very it's a very, very fast process. You're almost it's guerrilla marketing for us. Enterprise SEO is much more process driven.
So, Arnoldo, Nick was saying that it's obvious that there are certain things that need to be done, but it's difficult sometimes to do these things quickly. How do you prioritize when working on SEO and in enterprise SEO? What needs to be done?
What to prioritize is basically low-hanging fruits. As Nick is saying, there's a lot of stakeholder management. I will extend a bit on that part, meaning that it can be. It's about the scale. It can be like very impressive to deal with millions of or like the size of the site, but at the end of the day, it's more than that. Is the business side, how you manage and get the buy-in from different development teams, from external vendors, not necessarily always in-house vendors, and then the never-ending gray area that until now Google is being more open and providing more insights on how things works. And back to the prioritization, as I said, is low-hanging fruits. If you cannot be fast in the development phase, then you need to go off-site and work with actually what you can control in a short term.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal what can or can't be changed in certain CMSs when you're working for enterprises. I remember several years ago having a client, a big international client, and we couldn't change titles or meta descriptions, or I think even headings on the actual web page itself. I don't believe they even had heading tags, and this was a while ago, and we ended up building an alternate version of the more important pages and canonicalizing what they had to that, which is quite a phenomenal, strange solution, because obviously all the signals are going to the main website, but then the canonicalization is going towards the alternate site. So that was a radical, crazy solution that probably wouldn't be so effective now. But I'm sure you guys have seen quite a few things that you want to change, but you just tear your hair out because you can't actually change them. Going back to the question that we encountered previously, how do you actually persuade senior directors in the business that don't understand SEO that this is going to have a massive financial impact on the business? Arnoldo, shall we start with you on that one?
Well, data, right? Data is the best tool you can get, but also how you show the data, how competitors are growing compared with you, how well the good thing of internet is you just can compete against a big company if you have the right tools and data, right?
So if you look at a competitor's data, are you talking about just the estimated number of visits that the competitor's website gets and the estimated financial value of that, or can you go deeper?
Yes, that's as simple as that. Sometimes you don't need to go deeper because you're talking about a top executive that doesn't know anything about specific search engine optimization. So you need to go to the basics, and then you got the other part, which is the development part, where you need to change, and you need to use the right carrot, the right incentive, depending the stakeholder.
Nick,
Yeah.
are there one or two challenges that you can share about how to deal with senior executives within a business and making them aware of the true value of SEO?
Yeah, it's a huge part of the process. I think some things that have helped me over the years is, I think as Arnoldo says, always be able to speak their language. So take it back to the money. What's the ROI? What's the return on investment? You're in a very specific place as a senior SEO within a large organization, because an agency is kind of brought in to do a job. They're brought in to do SEO, and they've already, it's already been signed off. It's something that's been paid for, that's signed off, they're doing it. As an internal SEO, you have to put forward suggestions and recommendations against other recommendations that are coming from all around the business, so that those senior stakeholders have a dozen different options in front of them to choose from, and SEO is just one of them. They may be able to do something in product, they may be able to do something, in customer experience. These are all valid strategic decisions to make for the business. So you need to be able to sell SEO, and you need to be able to come in and say, this is what I want to do, and this is why it's going to make a material difference to the business. And just sort of do the kind of SEO that's not going to have that impact. Just doesn't really work within large organizations. And this is largely why large organizations have been so difficult as clients for agencies. They've agencies have gone in a circle of kind of, working for a large client, leaving them, another agency comes on board, leaves them, because there's so much structural work and deep work that needs to go on now in large organizations that you need to, external agencies struggle to get that signed off. So as an internal SEO, your challenge is to get those big changes happening. So you need to be able to tie those back to the material income for the business, material difference for the business.
Simon Cox saying in the chat, with corporates, you need to pre-book a certain amount of dev resource for the following year to get the changes that you need done. Okay.
Yeah, this is yeah, absolutely. I mean, dev resources is really hard. It's already allocated. I mean, this is where running POCs, proof of concepts, really help in enterprise. You design a proof of concept around something that you think will make a difference, and you scale this back to, if you can't get it signed off at the level you want it, you scale it back. So maybe you do a proof of concept around a few pages or a certain section of the website. You then get that done by hook or by crook, however you can do it, to get the data to then prove the business case for why this needs to happen across the whole of the website. But it's continual kind of circling of this, I've got an idea, I prove it, I run a proof of concept, I roll it out, and then I roll it out across a website, or if it works across a market, I roll it out to 26 other markets. And that's kind of that's a kind of continual process that you do at enterprise level, where at smaller websites you just say, well, this obviously needs to be done, so we just do it.
Just install the WordPress plugin and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Just put a plug in. Yeah, it's done. Job done. And I've done. I mean, I've run those POCs, by any way I could. In some ways, if you can't get the dev resource, you find a way around that. So it may be that you use things like tag management systems to insert code, just to which isn't approved. And I think John Mew and other Googlers have said, don't do this as a best practice. But if you have to do that just to get the data that you need to prove the concept, then do it. And then that will allow you to expand out that work and get it done at a wider scale. And I've even been down shops, doing 3D photography in sort of Vodafone stores just to get proof of concept signed off, to get the data that we needed to get these things done.
Superb. Simon Cox also saying first thing is to build up a rapport with the dev and CMS teams and build a matrix of who has control of what. And Arnoldo, do you think if there's an SEO out there that is perhaps very good at SEO but working for a small brand and wants to cut their teeth in enterprise SEO, do they need to learn additional skill sets? First of all, people management skill sets before being able to be successful in an enterprise SEO role?
Yeah, definitely. Stakeholder management and a lot of patience, and depending the company, you need to speak the same language as development and product owners or solution architects and the list goes business analyst. So it's like you need a special set of skills, and prioritization is also key, because as Nick is saying, right, you cannot boil an entire ocean. So you need to learn how to prioritize and start from small, and find your workarounds when it comes to proof of concepts or short-term projects that are designed to show the value. In that sense, I think we are in a good position now in 2018, because there is a bunch of solutions out there. Like I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names, but there is an agency in London actually having an SEO A/B testing tool similar to a CDN that
Sure, you can mention names if you like.
I think is
Distilled.
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 Yeah, that's basically a layer in the middle of your origin and your CDN, where you can do a lot of experimentation when it comes to SEO and actually fix things. So if you're working in a large scale site, that's it's a good option. So it's a lot of tools that didn't exist, or tools or solutions that not even exist 5 years ago. So we are in a good position now.
Carlos saying in the chat, we just started injecting JSON LD using Google Tag Manager. I think that was possibly what Nick was referring to, although he didn't actually call it by name.
Sorry, yes, that's exactly it. And I think Google have said that it's not recommended, so it would be good for testing. And I think it's great to prove the proof of concept, but you really want to eventually then get that on the page itself, because it'll get more. More guarantees of getting it sort of recognized by Google. But if you have to do things, and as Arnoldo says, there's a lot of ways of just getting things done, and A/B testing and SEO is great. Another thing I've used is Schema app, which is brilliant, which allows me to inject schema across hundreds of thousands of pages in a couple of hours, without any dev resource at all, just putting the tag in the page. So you have to think of ways around these kind of dev blockages, because that's largely the problem you have, is that to get these changes done is very hard work.
And have you seen any measurable success from doing that? Have you seen a significant increase in featured snippets, for example?
Yes, we have, and I think that comes back to the difference with enterprise SEO, is that because we're doing everything at scale, we can afford to play around with very small intricate details, and where normally for a normal site you can implement something and you won't see much of a change. At enterprise, because of the scale, you often can, a very small change across multiple pages makes a really big difference. So that's one of the big differences. And if you wanted to move from being a sort of small site SEO to an enterprise SEO, I would recommend that you focused on technical, very much so. So you can make these kind of small differences to the website and make these huge differences. But this is you've got the time and the luxury of focusing on the detail at enterprise.
Arnoldo, we had Nick there talking very much about creating a test and learn culture. So I would assume that you operate in a similar kind of manner. So if so, what are some of the more important things to be testing on an ongoing basis to try and hone the impact of your SEO?
Well, whatever you can manipulate, right? I hear about the stories about ejecting using tag management. We haven't used it, but definitely test and learn. And for a multinational or company such as IKEA or Vodafone, it's we have the scale when it comes to traffic, and not only from an SEO perspective, but also from an A/B or conversion rate optimization perspective. That we have the traffic to actually see the impact of small changes, such as basic stuff like adding call to actions to titles, or testing different approach when it comes to internal links or body copy and so on.
So when you say you've got the traffic, for certain experiments that perhaps maybe a little bit more experimental, if you want to, if I can use that word again, do you test things in a smaller market first of all to ensure that that isn't going to impact every one of your sites?
Yeah, it depends. It depends the project, right? If you were talking about hreflang implementation, right? Yeah, this is a continuous battle between what the business owners or the product owners wants to do. If, for example, we mentioning before about Switzerland having 4 languages, if they want to go and migrate to a new platform, that would not be the optimal way to do it. So yeah, we usually split sections or markets. That's the scientific approach. You know, the basic scientific method. They have a control group and then some variables.
Nick, how do you go about selecting which pages on your site to make the changes on?
It's partly the politics, which ones you're allowed to make the changes on before you roll something out to major parts of the property. I mean, I'd say testing for us is interesting because largely we're fairly sure that things that we test are going to be beneficial. We're not kind of testing. It's very unlikely that we test something that was harmful. It's more the case of this is something that needs to be implemented. It's best practice, so we're testing it because we know it's going to help, and we'd have a control group against that. But it's not particularly risky, really, when you're just kind of using testing as a way of deploying something, a way of deploying best practice.
Another interesting question, why do big companies use Adobe Analytics instead of GA? Are there any major reasons for that? Nick, what are your thoughts on that again?
Yeah, Adobe's very effective in terms of how they're pushing that suite. Adobe Analytics is an amazingly powerful platform, and I can say that because I've spoken about this topic extensively with analytics people, and Adobe is great. The problem is with Adobe is it takes a lot of work to make it great, so you need a lot of effort and resources to go into Adobe. So there's obviously a case that there are companies where they're not willing to put in the effort and the resource on their analytics, and they would probably be better off with a GA implementation than a poor Adobe implementation.
So if companies do put in the effort, what kind of results, what kind of stats, what kind of information do they get out of Adobe Analytics that is going to be better than Google Analytics?
Depends the context. If it's a multilingual setup, I would say analytics is in advantage. You have so many variables in the implementation, and you can customize your analytics implementation. So if it's a multilingual big site, I would say that's the advantage. The advantage is the global team could easily go in and crunch the data in the most effective way. I'm 50-50 analytics, Google Analytics, Adobe, but a little bit on the Adobe Analytics side, because if you are scaling up is the best way to go. And then the other part is if you are doing omni-channel or multi-channel, then you need to think about the 360 view, right? And what other tools complement with your analytics.
Okay, well, it's obviously a very interesting topic. Lots of comments from the chat room as well. But we're already just about at the end of season 2, episode 6. Just time for an actionable tip from each of our guests, related to or not necessarily related to what we have been discussing so far. So, Nick, what is your actionable tip?
My advice for people dealing with enterprise, I mean, if you're an agency and you're dealing with enterprise, then learn how to sell SEO into the organization. Learn, do BAU, business as usual SEO. And there's things that just need to happen on the SEO front to maintain, but just learn to package up proposals. There's so many new initiatives that are happening in SEO. Learn how to kind of package up, present them, and get these kind of done at enterprise level. It's a way of kind of selling in SEO. But if you can kind of break down these proposals in a more exciting way, I'd say, than usually happens.
Is there any project management qualification or anything else that you've done to formally learn that, or is it just something you've learned as you've gone through different roles?
I'd say I've learned going through different roles. I mean, my role at agency was very helpful, and certainly, Havas and Dentsu were very large agencies, so that gave me a bit of understanding, as Arnoldo said, in terms of prioritization and what really mattered to the business. And I think it was there that I really realized that it needs to make a material difference. The work needs to make a material difference to the company. There's no point going in, for example, with an audit of 100 different points that need to happen if you can't prioritize those recommendations to give the business some idea of the effect they're going to have. If you can't do that, then don't bother. To be honest, it's so you need to have that approach. You need to think, how is this going to make a difference to the client?
Great. Well, you can find Nick over at nickwilsdon.com. And now, Arnoldo, what is your actionable tip?
That was a good one, Nick. Well, my actionable tip it will be for the future. I will say it, if you're dealing with an enterprise site, you need to think about five years ahead when it comes to your information. Following up what the big players are making as a standard, like a schema. If you need to partner with vendors that actually have the capability. In this case, if we are talking e-commerce, product information management, that your data is structured and fit for growth in the future, I will say so. Especially with the latest development in voice search.
Great advice. You obviously have to be a lot more long-term focused than working in a smaller organization. So be patient, and you will get there. But don't expect to conquer Rome in one day.
Yeah.
So you can find Arnoldo over LinkedIn or Twitter. Just search for him over there. I've been your host, David Bain. You can also find me over at digitalmarketingradio.com. A few nice comments coming in the YouTube chat. Carlos saying, great show. We'll be tuning in from now on. We've got Simon Cox saying, great webcast. Corp SEO, not often discussed. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on there. Unfortunately, the regular season 2 host, Judith, couldn't make it this week, but she will be back next week. We will be recording the next episode, Season 2, Episode 7 of The Scoop at the same time, same place, the SEO Rush YouTube channel on Wednesday, the 14th of November, when our guests are scheduled to be Kushno Khan from Resigno and Bas van den Belt from basvandenbelt.com. In the meantime, thanks not only to Nick and Arnoldo for this episode, but also to you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the audio podcast if you're not already. Just head over to semrush.com/podcasts and find the link there to your favorite show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Android, and many other good podcast stores. And remember, don't just listen, subscribe to the show. Subscribers help our ranking, so that would be much appreciated. But until next time, be fantabulous and do one thing that scares you. Adios.
Adios.
Adios.